Ever felt like anxiety is your personal theme song always playing in the background, even when life looks fine on paper? You're not alone. Welcome to today's episode, where we'll dissect why anxiety feels so familiar yet so mysterious, and more importantly, how you can finally loosen its grip. I'm your host, and if you're tired of silently wrestling with worry, this episode is your toolkit. Today, we'll break down anxiety's true origins, share my own turning point, and explore practical strategies you can use to shift from overwhelmed to in control. Picture this. Am I just not trying hard enough? Or is something deeper at play? Maybe you've asked yourself that. We'll explore technical terms like cognitive biases. Think of it as your mind's autopilot, often steering you into worry and dopamine loop, which is like a casino slot machine in your brain, keeping you chasing instant results. In Act 1, we'll set the stage with real stories and relatable struggles. In Act 2, we'll get honest about where anxiety comes from. And in Act 3, I'll arm you with actionable steps. Ready to turn anxiety from your shadow into your teacher? Let's dive in. By the end, not only will you see anxiety differently, but you'll also know how to start rewriting your daily script. So, why is anxiety so sticky in the first place? Stay with me as we break it down. Let me tell you a story my own. At 36, I realized I'd been living on autopilot, hyper-focused on work, yet filling my spare hours with distractions that never challenged my mind. Sound familiar? Maybe you've chased the next course, bought the next book, expecting a breakthrough only to find your anxiety growing with every unread page. Now you might be thinking, isn't learning supposed to help? It is, but here's the twist. Chasing too many things at once leads to what psychologists call overcommitment syndrome. Imagine trying to juggle 10 balls while running a marathon. And then there's imposter syndrome, that nagging voice whispering you're falling behind, especially when comparing yourself to others. The setup: a hunger for unique advantage skills, wealth, influence. The conflict: no matter how hard I tried, the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be only seemed to widen. The resolution began when I realized it's not about instant transformation, but about seeing the patterns fueling my anxiety. How about you? Do you recognize when you're busy for the sake of being busy? That's a classic anxiety trigger, and it's more common than you might think. The good news? Awareness is the first step toward reclaiming control. So if you've ever felt trapped by the pressure to keep up or catch up, you're already halfway to a solution because you've begun noticing the problem. Next, let's map out exactly what kinds of anxiety most often trip us up. What if I told you anxiety isn't just a vague feeling, but a collection of predictable patterns? Through journaling my own worries, I uncovered 5 distinct faces of anxiety: completion, positioning, choice, environment, and difficulty. Let's break them down, see which ones you recognize. First, completion anxiety. That relentless urge to fill every moment with tasks, living under the tyranny of the deadline. Think of your to-do list as a treadmill that never stops. No wonder you're out of breath. Next, positioning anxiety hits. When you compare your beginner's step to someone else's finish line, a classic case of the reference point error, where your brain picks the worst possible standard. Then there's choice anxiety. Too many options can freeze us, a phenomenon called analysis paralysis. You know the drill. Free hour, dozens of possibilities, and suddenly, nothing gets done. Environmental anxiety comes from constraints like obligations you can't escape or resources you wish you had. Finally, difficulty anxiety, facing something truly hard, like mastering a new skill or tackling a dense book. The technical term here is cognitive overload. Imagine your brain as a computer running too many programs at once, slowing to a crawl. The Act 1 setup is recognition. Act 2 is struggle with these patterns. Act 3 is realizing that these anxieties share 2 roots: wanting too much, too fast. Now you might ask, isn't this just human nature? Exactly. And that's where our next breakthrough lies. Let's wrap up. First, anxiety springs from the mismatch between our desires and our current abilities. Second, it's amplified by our brain's hardwired drive for instant results, what I call the fast-forward biases. Third, the modern world's speed and competition magnify these ancient tendencies, making anxiety feel inevitable. But here's the game changer. You can step back and rewire your response. Maybe you're thinking, great, but what should I actually do? Here's your action. Pick just one important thing to focus on today. No multitasking, no guilt. That's the beginning of building real patience, which, like compound interest, grows more powerful the longer you invest. Remember, neuroplasticity means your brain can change with practice. Think of it as updating your phone's operating system. And self-regulation is your mind's steering wheel when anxiety tries to take over. In Act 1, we recognized anxiety's patterns. Act 2, we traced its evolutionary roots. Act 3, we commit to small, focused steps. Your next episode will dig deep into the art of patience, how it's built, why it's rare, and how mastering it can transform your life. Ready to get practical? Subscribe, share your aha moment, and I'll see you next time when we tackle the secret superpower called patience. Until then, remember, anxiety is human, but mastery is possible, starting with one patient choice today.